Yes, car prices have killed my business. Now, not to sound dramatic, but it is true, and it's something a lot of people are not having open and honest discussions about, and that's exactly what we're going to break down today. Now, if you have a business that relies on buying cars like I do as Turo host and like many of us in this community do, then it's been a very difficult few years. And in order to understand what happened, we need to go through what the last couple years have been like. Now, you may have read the news articles showing that car prices on average are still sitting 30% above where they used to be in 2019. And while this may be the new norm, it doesn't mean that it's going to work for our businesses as Turo hosts. So in this video, I'm going to help you navigate exactly what happened, because it's really important to understand that in order to figure out how do we move forward in this new environment of extremely high car prices, high car payments, high interest rates, and a car rental market where the day rates are not rising in proportion to car prices, because this all makes a major impact on how we operate this business. So we're just going to be super honest and open about what's happening and exactly how to navigate it. So we'll go over the 3 reasons why prices have skyrocketed, where the market is going, and the little bit of a silver lining that I see where you can actually find deals where cars are 15 to 20% off of MSRP or 0% APR. As crazy as it might sound, they actually do exist, and I'm going to uncover all of that for you guys. So we know that, car prices have been rising, right? They still sit that 30% above where they used to be. The average car payment in 2021 was $646. At the end of 2022, the research showed that it had climbed to $716, which was a 10.8% increase in just 1 year. So those average car payments have really come up. Now, the average interest rate on a loan in the US on a new or a used car is now sitting between 9 to 13%, which is insane. Now, I have an Audi TT listed on Turo, and I was literally looking at the sales contract just the other day because I had acquired it in early 2021, and the APR on that Audi TT is at 0.9%. So you can just see how the APRs have almost increased 10x what they used to be. And this is a major deal. Now, it might sound like I'm just spewing out numbers, but it makes a huge difference because this is literally increasing your car payments sometimes by hundreds of dollars. And you don't want to pay all that extra money just towards interest because APR rates are so high. So let's talk about what happened and how we can avoid this and how we can continue to potentially have profitable businesses in this really difficult climate. So as we know, back in 2020, everything shut down, right? And manufacturers, production, when it came to cars, that was the number one thing that really began to drag everything down. Because everything shut down, production of new cars had really stopped, right? So right away, we know that there is going to be a decrease in inventory. Then what happened is when production started up again, there was so much demand. Everyone's been sitting at home for a better part of a year. They've been saving up money. And now that things had started to open up again in 2021, everyone was ready to get out, to make purchases, buy new cars, especially because they had such a strong savings account and people were ready to spend. Well, with that, what happened was then we began to see a shortage in semiconductor chips. And because there was a shortage in semiconductor chips, they just couldn't produce as many cars as they normally would. Well, because we need those chips in these cars. So that also sort of added on to the shortage that we were already experiencing from the lack of production. And then the number 3 reason was it's very simple economics of just supply and demand. Because everyone was out, they had additional disposable income to spend. They wanted to buy new cars. There was a lot of demand for these cars, and unfortunately, there just wasn't enough supply. When there is more demand for something and less supply, that means prices are going to go way, way, way up. And that is the very thing that led to car prices exponentially increasing, car payments going up, and people, on average having these $700 plus payments. And so it's just been a very, very crazy time. So that meant for my business, it literally did in many ways kill my business. Now, thankfully, in 2020, I had roughly about 20 to 25 cars on Turo. So I was really working with a nice size fleet, and I was on my way to expanding, growing, and adding more cars to my fleet. But obviously 2020 happened, things completely shut down, and business really fell off. Well, thankfully, going into 2021 and 2022, car prices and used car values skyrocketed. While demand in the Turo marketplace was still catching up to business opening back up, it was starting to be time for me to sell some of my cars because I acquired a lot of these cars back in 2018 and 2019, which meant by now they were, almost 3 to 4 years old. They were getting up their mileage, and that's always been my exit strategy, is to get out of these cars once they hit that 3 to 4 year mark and before they have any maintenance issues. Now, thankfully, because I was working with a nice size fleet, I was able to sell a lot of these cars at a huge profit, and that really became a revenue generating source for me. Meanwhile, I was still in the market. I purchased a couple cars between 2021 and 2022. For example, I got my 2019 Corvette C7, I got my Audi TT, I got my brand new Porsche Cayman, and so I added some really nice cars to my fleet. But just shortly after 2021, prices really began to rise, and they were rising extremely fast in the car market to such a point where the math started to not make so much sense anymore to list cars on Turo. So a lot of people ask me, well, hey Saimah, how come you haven't bought cars in the last year and a half? Well, my friends, that is exactly the reason why. Because you absolutely want to avoid the trap of buying cars that are way too expensive and that aren't going to make money. Now, to illustrate this in a super clear way, I want to show you guys this amazing chart off of Y Charts. It's going to show you exactly what happened and just the degree at which it happened, because that's the thing that I think a lot of people miss, especially if you got involved in the market in just the last couple of years, then you don't have that prior history of understanding what it was like. So you might think that this is the norm, but it actually was not. It was so dramatically different, and it makes a huge difference. So let's take a look at that chart. Okay, now like always, I actually like to look at the raw data when we're making any assumptions about the market, because we want to go off of what is actually factual so that we can make the best decisions possible when it comes to our business. So I love looking at this chart from Y Charts. Now we're just going to toggle this to what happened in the last 5 years when it comes to car prices. And we can see right here, here's 2019, right? This is what we're all used to. These were the normal prices. And then, okay, 2020 happens, and as expected, there was a dip in the market because, of course, everything shut down. No one was buying anything, and we were all at home. Now, as soon as things begin to open up in 2021 and people are starting to get out again, we just see this sharp incline in prices of cars. And the crazy thing is that now, as we look at present day, in 2023, prices are actually still on the incline if you look at the overall picture. They are not continuing to decline as we may have thought towards the end of 2022 when we saw the graph begin to change. And so this is a perfect factual example of data showing us what happened in the market and exactly how dramatic it was. It wasn't a mild change in prices. It was literally 20, 30, 40, 50% above what prices used to be, and this documents it perfectly. So when you are in a business like Turo and you have to purchase cars at a good deal in order to preserve your margins, this really becomes a game changer. Now, thankfully in my position, because in 2020 I still had about 25 cars, I was still able to stay in the business because I didn't have to sell all my cars and I could still keep some of them. So I was very lucky to be in that position to where I didn't have to buy new cars just yet. But now I am finally starting to get to that stage where it's like, okay, it's time to buy some new cars, but I absolutely refuse to pay these prices right here. That's never gonna happen, because if you buy cars at these prices, you will not make margins or have profitability when it comes to Turo. And that is the truth for a lot of hosts. And I feel really bad who purchased cars in the last year and a half at extremely high prices, and they didn't do the math prior to making these purchases. Well, a lot of them are finding themselves in positions to where they either can't make their car payments, or their cars are getting repossessed, or they're going bankrupt. This is real life stuff that's happening, and you never want to get caught in that type of financial liability. That's an awful position to be in. So what do you do? What you have to do, and the silver lining to it all, is that you have to be resourceful, right? At the end of the day, we're still in a market and there are deals to be had. But what you don't want to do is to pay above what you need to, right? Because at the end of the day, we purchase these cars, we want to keep our costs low. It's very formulaic. In fact, I have a video that I will link at the end of this video where you can watch, which gives you the formula on how to calculate your profitability. So please make sure you do that so that you don't end up in this position. So what do you need to do? You need to research the market for cars at a good deal. Now, people always comment saying, oh, there's no cars where you can get 15% off of MSRP. There's no good deals. This is the new norm. We just have to get used to it. Well, I refuse, my friends. That's not how we do business, because at the end of the day, the point of a business is to make money. And in order to make money, you have to do the math and you have to do the homework. That is the name of the game. So what do? Well, you go deep into the web and you try to find those deals. You have to spend time doing research. Now, all over the news, we're hearing about these crazy high interest rates. Well, there are manufacturers out there are brands out there are dealerships out there that are actually offering 0% APR. And I'm not lying. Here it is. You guys are looking at it live with me. Now, Ford is running a bunch of incentives right now to move vehicles, right? So we see 0% APR financing for 36 months. It exists and they have it on a lot of models. They're even coming down to 2.9% on their Ford Mustang Mach-E, which I know so many Turo hosts love that car. So now the name of the game becomes you have to be resourceful, you have to do your research, and you have to see if the cars that are being offered at good deals will be a good fit for your market, right? So now I'm not jumping the gun to buy any of these specific cars because they don't work in my market, but I know so many markets across the US on Turo where these cars would work really, really well. So this is how you game the system. This is how you play the market when the odds are not in your favor. You really have to do a lot of research. And I have a feeling because things are slowing down in the economy, not as many people are buying cars, that we will continue to see even more deals just like this pop up. Now, another thing that I want to see you is there is a car expert who put together this list of cars right here that shows us exactly which cars are being sold for below MSRP. And you will not find this anywhere. And people all over the web are talking about how this is impossible and it doesn't exist. Well, it's possible and it does exist because it's right here. So you can look at all these models. These are 2023 brand new models being discounted 7.8% off of APR. Sorry, 7.8% off of MSRP, 7.1% off of MSRP, 6.5%. All of these things make a huge difference. And look at the assortment of models that are available to us. We're seeing all types of brands offering these types of deals. Everything from Nissan, Ford, Chrysler, Jeep, Subaru, all makes and models that are very prevalent on the Turo platform. So the key thing here is that you really have to do your research. You have to figure out what's a great match for your market and how do you get it at a great deal so that you don't end up in a position to where the market is forcing your hand and forcing your position to be in a risky financial situation. That's what you want to be able to avoid at all costs. No business is worth being in the the negative. That's not the point of a business. So it doesn't matter how bad you want a car or how bad you want to start, you want to always find the right deal. So when I think about myself and I think about the market that I'm here in Southern California and I'm itching to purchase a new car. I've been so patient this past year and a half, but I'm ready to get back into buying more cars. I have been doing some deep dive research, and one of my favorite tools to use, which many of you guys have heard me talk about many times on my YouTube channel, is the Car Guru's price trend graph. And I have been monitoring this graph for literally almost 2 years now, waiting for prices to come down. So this is how you become resourceful. This is how you actually know for a fact that you are getting a good deal. So I've had my eyes on Teslas for a long time. Now there was a period of time where here in Southern California and Orange County, Teslas became super saturated, right? And there's tons of them. But what's happened in the last 6 to 8 months is that demand has really caught up with the saturation, meaning more and more people are looking for electric vehicles. They're more comfortable with renting electric vehicles. And that's simply because the adoption rate has increased over time, right? Now it's just becoming your everyday, very common car. So now I realize, okay, this is a very good time for me to list a car like a Tesla in my area, but I'm only going to do it if I can get a good deal on it and if it can be, of course, profitable for me. So right here on this graph, one of the things that I've done to show you guys an example of how stark the differences between Tesla prices versus your other manufacturers that are out there like Ford, Chevrolet, Jeep, Toyota. I've selected all of these, right? And the red line on top portrays Tesla's prices since 2019. And you can see Tesla is one of the only brands where their car prices are literally crashing, is the word that I will use. And the reason why I use such a strong word to describe it is because if you look right here, if I hover over today's date, the price of a used Tesla, the average price, is negative 15.6%. That means it's 15.6% below what it was in 2019. You will not see this on any other car, at least not that I've seen. So this is why if you really dedicate your time to researching the market and finding a good deal, you will find that deal. It's not that they don't exist. It's just that in this environment, they are harder to find and you have to work much harder to find those deals. So this is where research comes in. So for me, I've been tracking this Tesla and now I know for a fact that if I purchase a Tesla, and if I keep it within a certain price point and I exercise this price trend graph, that I am getting a killer deal on this car. My car payment is going to be very low. I'm going to be smart about how I get the loan on the vehicle. I might go through a credit union for really low APR, and I'm going to be able to list it with a low cost of ownership so that I can make a profit on the day rate. That is how you run a successful Turo business, is by making sure you buy cars at a good price so that you can make a margin. So that's the thing that a lot of people don't talk about, is that the rise in these car prices in the last year and a half to 2 years has really killed the business for a lot of people. And I know this firsthand because I get to talk to Turo hosts on a daily basis, and they tell me that in the last year they haven't purchased any vehicles and they haven't been able to execute on their growth plans for the business because the math just doesn't make sense. And I found myself in that same exact position, and I completely understand. I would absolutely love to hear from you guys what you think about this, what position you find yourself in, and if you want to learn more about how to purchase a vehicle at a great deal, check out my website, powerhost.club, and I have a free car buying guide that was specifically designed to maximize your profits on Turo.